Hello and welcome to Southeastern 16's live baseball stream on SEC Baseball. We can only hope that the show lives up to the pre-show. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Graham Doty, Alfred Esmond, Jay Greason. We are here to talk SEC baseball. We'll hit some midweek schedules. We'll hit a little sneak preview at the weekend and what we're watching and some other storylines as they come and go. But first, gentlemen, big development yesterday in college baseball. And by the way, I don't know if we touched on this earlier, but it may not have been the same logic, the same ruling, but this also happened to Georgia's Dylan Goldstein earlier, whom Georgia was trying to get eligible. We finally got a ruling on Osuna, who's not eligible to play for Tennessee. I don't know how much that really hurts him at this point, given the way some of the freshmen are hitting. But Graham lead us off. Not the ruling Tony Vitello and the Vols were hoping with Alberto Osuna, the North Carolina / Tampa transfer, who looks like will not be playing this year.
Right. Well, first of all, I think Tennessee, they're still going to be in tip-top shape. Like, they're going to be fine, especially offensively. I'm just a little surprised with the way that everything has gone the last, 3 to 4 years. It's just been a lot of yeses in all of this craziness. So to have something not, go the way of a student athlete, it's kind of a little bit surprising. So that's just kind of what stands out to me. I do feel bad for him, though. I mean, he was in Tampa, very good Division II program, and then, up and leaves going to Knoxville, and it just doesn't work out. So I feel bad for him that he's going to miss this season, but it's just kind of bizarre that you just see somebody finally say no after all the yeses that we've seen in college athletics the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, Chris in our chat says if any team can absorb a ruling like that, it's Tennessee. He's absolutely right. That's what Graham just said. And Chris, you even said that, to start us off. I mean, this doesn't really affect this team that much as of right now if you've watched them play. Yeah, I feel bad for Osuna slightly. I mean, like Graham said, it's been just a bunch of yes men with the NCAA, it feels like, when it comes to this transfer stuff. I mean, you see players in all sports do it, to the nth degree, in between seasons, trying to find the right spot to the highest bidder, so to speak. Osuna did it because he saw guys like Diego Pavia do the similar stuff for football. And he figures, hey, why can I do this? I'd rather play Division I than Division II for one more year. And he gave it a shot. But, with that being said, doing it at the very beginning of February, mere weeks before the season, is kind of, I think it just puts you in a long shot situation, and that was the case. So I know, maybe Tennessee fans expected it to go through just because of, other stories like this happening and with like Pavia it working out for him. But in the end, I think it was a long shot, and it just took people until now to realize it.
Well, I hate it for Marcel's boy because he was probably going to be a good player. But I got a tangent.
I think they're the same age, Jay. I don't think
hey,
you can be the father of a guy your own age.
What you call it? I mean, Raphael Hoosesbridge is a former Braves shortstop. I think he was 145 years old when he was Rookie of the Year. But a tangent here, and the first part of this is something I hate in college sports. And whether it's the woe is me tangent, whether it's the social media, there is a quick reactionary, everybody's out to get us thought process of the officiating helps Bama. Everybody hates Georgia. Auburn gets no calls. I mean, and it's not in a million years isolated to one SEC school. Everybody does it. But does Tennessee baseball have a beef here? Because you guys talked about the avalanche of yeses that have come on an issue not unlike this, and in a much more minor detail. I don't know what you guys covered in the power polls yesterday. Ain't nobody can tell me Tennessee's not the number one team in the country, period, in the conversation. So, again, just because they're paranoid doesn't mean people aren't out to get them. So, I mean, I don't know. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm a little ticked here, and I'll go a step further. Tony V, nobody's better in college baseball at galvanizing the locker room about us against them than Tony Vitello. and he's good at a lot of things. But dude has a all-star caliber lineup, galvanized, believing that it's them against the world. He and Kirby Smart are great at that. Kirby Smart talking about when they were preseason number 2 in the country that nobody believed in you. Dude, you were number 2 in the country.
When he says that after, whatever game they lose or where they win their second national championship, it's like, come on. But, like, you're a master at it. Like, props to you that you get 80 guys to buy into that message. It obviously works.
Yeah, I mean, and again, same thing happened at Georgia. Georgia was trying to get Dylan Goldstein through. I think maybe there were some similarities. I don't think it was the exact same case. And I think the thing that I found most interesting was reading between the lines at some tweets. I'm not a good guy to read legal stuff and tell you what it means, but it sounded like he was saying that the Pavia judge got it wrong, which you don't usually see judges do, especially in the same part of the country. So there's that. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, the other thing too, and I don't know if this played into it. It may have. I mean, like, he didn't transfer to Tennessee till what? The last couple of days of February.
February.
Yeah. The other thing was he left Tampa the day of its opener, and I don't know if that played into it in the ruling. I haven't read it. Probably should have. It's been busy time for me with other stuff. If that was a factor or not either, but that I just thought, like, when the transfer happened, like, well, wait a minute. I'm not sure academics matter anymore, but it is a little weird when you're university and, you're having transfers 3 weeks after your semester started. So there was also that too. I don't know how much it played in or didn't play in, but like when it happens, like, well, I don't think I've ever seen one of these, like where a guy leaves one school where his season's starting that day and goes to another one, in February.
A student could never do that. I'll say that.
Have you tried? Do you know from experience?
No, I've not tried. I did not try. But if you take the athlete out of student athlete, that person will not be able to do that. I can almost guarantee it. I feel like.
But haven't we taken the student out of the phrase student athlete long ago? I mean, what is more of a dated colloquialism, Blockbuster Video or the student athlete? I mean, I don't know. I mean, because at this point in time, I mean, I don't know, man. It makes your head hurt because I don't necessarily agree with the Diego Pavia thing either. But that's what the judge said. And then the NCAA came out and gave everybody a blanket year. I mean, it's a different show on our platform of great talent and good people. But a lot of people think Auburn's got 11 seniors. They could have 3 of those dudes back because they played in either junior college or Division II next year in Chaney Johnson, Chad Baker-Mazzara, and maybe even Denver Jones.
Man. Is the last Blockbuster still standing? There was a documentary on Netflix about it. It's pretty good.
It's in Bend, Oregon, of all places. There is a documentary on it on Netflix. It's pretty interesting.
It is.
It's a family that owns it, and they go to a Walmart and they just buy a bunch of DVDs, and then that's how they stack up movies at their Blockbuster.
All right, Alfred, you're too young. Graham, you're probably on the cusp. But Chris, there is no way to share the excitement of a new release hitting the Blockbuster.
Yep.
And you go with your family scanning the shelves, because first you scan the shelf where the whole wall is that one and they're all gone. And then you go to the return counter trying to see if anybody had brought it back. And then you ask your buddy behind the counter to go check the drop off to see if there's there. And then you end up watching Fletch again for like the 47th time.
and then you end up leaving it under your car seat and forget about it. And 3 weeks later, you find it, and you got a $40 late fee.
Now, I could never identify with the Seinfeld episode with the library and the late book charges, but I'm pretty certain I paid for like Sega MLB baseball 42 times over. Instead of buying it, I just rented it, and it ended up being in my den for like 38 consecutive days. And then you go back and you're going, I owe what?
It feels like it's unfair to the point like you could have just bought the movie.
Exactly.
And the late fees are like 2.5 times that. But anyway, Chris says Blockbuster could have bought Netflix and passed. It was an awful move.
Yeah.
Not to get political, but Trump could have bought the Dallas Cowboys for $190 million before.
Oh,
ouch!
It's worth about $9 billion.
Yeah.
Shall we flip the page to midweeks?
I say we shall.
Well,
I say we shall.
Caleb starts us off. This is one of the games I wanted to circle. LSU and Dallas Baptist. Says hopefully Gavin Guidry can come back. Jay said it might be this week. I guess he's not pitched yet, has he?
He's been hurt. Some sort of mid-body injury, I think is how it was labeled. But, I mean, that's a pretty good addition to an already pretty good pitching staff once that happens.
What are they're 20 really good arms.
I just was going on a hunch.
What's that?
I asked Caleb not to quote me on that. I just was going on a hunch.
Got you.
Different Jay.
Took me a second. My apologies.
That's all right. I'll just I'll write them. I'll explain them out in the private chats.
Well, I was knee deep in looking something up, which is, you could say just about anything when I'm doing that. I want to hear it. But yeah, let's see. So you got LSU this week. Graham, what were the other ones we circled? We got Mississippi State and Troy today, I believe.
I think it's Southern Miss and State.
Oh, Southern Miss. Okay.
Yeah.
Troy was last week, right?
Yeah. Troy beat State in Starkville. So this is round 2. Remember, Southern and State played a couple weeks ago. It was down in Hattiesburg, and Southern shut State out. So again, this happens every year in the state of Mississippi. Both Ole Miss and State, all play Southern. And new wrinkle this year, the minor league baseball team in the Jackson area left. They are in the state of Georgia now. So it's essentially this giant ballpark in Jackson, Mississippi that's empty now. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like moving forward because they don't really have a home for it yet.
This would be huge for Mississippi State if they could pull this off. I mean, that's not only do you get revenge, but you also get a ranked win. You know what I mean? So after the weekend they had in Houston, to me, that really stands out. Midweeks matter this week to Chris Lemonis and Mississippi State.
Yeah, it does feel like a big one, especially with SEC play right around the corner. This does feel like an important midweek for State.
I was looking.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to say, I was looking at their strength of schedule today on RPI, and it was like 114. I'm like, I don't know how that's possible with some of the teams they played. I thought that was interesting. But go ahead, Jay. Then I had another question for Ram.
I think aesthetics and numbers are going to matter a little more this year because of the carnage that's at the end of the tunnel in conference season. I mean, we're looking up. I mean, we've seen it with basketball, but this year the SEC before conference started, they dominated everybody. They took on all comers and just delivered haymaker after haymaker. Now, as they get a little more ramped up, I mean, South Carolina took some punches over the weekend from Clemson. I mean, you know some of those things are coming in the conference because Texas A&M is not going to be this bad for that long. And you got to make some as my one of my favorite Auburn coaches of all time, Pat Dye, used to say, and man, oh man, would Pat Dye be winning some football games in the age of NIL because that dude could pay a player. You got to make hay. You got to make the hay when get the hay in the barn. And I think that's more important this year in SEC baseball than ever.
Yeah. And for State, one thing that's interesting, they've got, I think, probably the easiest SEC schedule. So, I don't know how much of I think if you go 15-15 or 14-16 in the conference, probably not going to matter unless you just lose, like half your midweeks, then it might. I think even the week conference schedule is still a killer slate. So that'll be one note that's interesting to watch. But I think the main thing I'm looking for is Hunter Hines. Got benched this weekend for a couple of games. Again, we've talked about he's been in a little bit of a 3-year decline, but he's a guy that if it clicks for him, he can get hot in a given week. He can change the the shape of that lineup. Graham, what's going on with Hunter Hines?
Yeah, we touched on it over the weekend. So it's not anything health-wise. So he is healthy. He is available to play. It's just kind of, Chris, I think you said it on Friday. This might be one of those things where Lamonis just wants to put him on the bench a little bit just to kind of reset. It was not going well offensively. At one point, he was 3 for 21 to start the season. So, and this is a guy who's played essentially almost every day since he got there. Like he started 179 of 180 games. So this is a guy that played a good bit over there at first base. And they may just be trying to hit that reset button, especially just with one weekend series left before SEC plays. So he's really, really good defensively, and offensively, he's just trying to figure it out. So State, they do have some options, especially with their transfer portal gets, but Hines has kind of been a mainstay over there for a while. So this will be something to watch, not only against Southern Miss in the midweek, but also this weekend in their matchup against Queens. Like, how much does he play? And if he does play, what does he look like offensively?
I think that's well said. And Alfred, I'm curious. I mean, if he takes a couple of days off, do you think Hines can catch up? What? I had a serious question, Alfred. Come on.
No, I mean, if you want me to answer it seriously, I think there's a chance. But they have. I mean, you look up and down this line of guys. There's just a lot of people who have stepped up in his place. I don't know. There might be a way to fix him back into it. If anyone can find that, it's obviously Lamonis. But I mean, you look up here. I would not have guessed Reed Stallman is leading this team in hitting. Hunter Hines would have been probably my first guess at that. Him or Bryce Chance, and Bryce Chance has been great. Ace Reese has been someone that stepped up big. Nolan Stevens has been big. And then Noah Sullivan. I mean, that's been a really good transfer get for Mississippi State so far this year. And all those guys, are just clearly surpassing him. So I think I think it'll be a challenge, for him to catch up with the rest of his teammates maybe. And that's something to watch. But you kind of got to roll with what's been working. And right now, not a lot's been working. Maybe Hunter Hines changes that. Maybe it's tonight. Maybe it's this upcoming weekend. We'll have to see. But it's certainly been a surprise seeing him toward the bottom of that team when it comes to hitting.
Yeah, I'm looking at his game log. He's not had a multi-hit game since the Manhattan series to open the year. He had 5 hits that weekend. Since then, he's had 2 hits total in what we're getting close to 3 weeks. Troy was the last time he played before Oklahoma State. He went 0 for 4 on Sunday. He was 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts against Troy, 1 for 4 against Missouri State with 3 strikeouts. The game before that, 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts against Missouri State, and then 0 for 3 with 3 against Missouri State. So a hard thing to know as a coach. You certainly don't want to humiliate a kid or embarrass him. They brought him back and I think hit him maybe 8th or 9th in the lineup, looking at the lineup card. So be interested to see that. They certainly have to get him hitting back at a high level. But I think, as you guys pointed out, they have found some guys in the portal that have taken up the slack. All right, I'm just going to throw it. Who wants to throw out another game to discuss for the midweek? Or Jay, you've got something here.
I do, and I'm certain y'all kicked it around a bunch. And Alfred, I know this is your go-to, but what is a fair over/under for Tennessee against a Radford team with a team ERA close to 7? I mean, is that over/under tonight? Is that 15?
Yeah, I would not be shocked.
I mean, because I just don't know how you get these guys out, man. I mean, yeah, Arkansas and LSU, and we got a whole lot of future big leaguers pitching this league, but that's 1 through 9 just steamrolling people, and Radford's going to throw out a bunch of future accountants and a couple of dentists, and I mean, I don't know how they're going to get anybody out. That game may last till the schedule starts.
Call me crazy here. I don't know if there's going to be much to learn from this Tennessee midweek game tonight.
Completely agree. But
I think that's the least risky take you've ever thrown out there, Alfred. I will, to answer Jay's question. Like, I'm thinking, like, what does that scenario look like? It looks like it's got to be damp or windy. It does not appear there was rain in the forecast today. let me make sure I've got this right. Not much in the way of wind. Humidity 33% in Knoxville right now. So look, it's not 80 degrees and sunny where the ball flies out, but that's your scenario. Is like you get some kind of a downpour, wind blowing in, and
But
either that or Tennessee just mails it in knowing it's got the wind today. But that's not kind of like them.
I did not. No, it's not like them. I could not make yesterday. So, and I know y'all probably covered Tennessee's impressive showing over the weekend. I just was. It jumped off the page that this is going to be bats and baby seals is what this is.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They kind of schedule their midweeks that way, which is not. I'm guessing that goes back to a couple of years ago where midway through the season they weren't sure they could get enough wins just to get in the NCAA tournament. That's year they drew the brutal slate where it feels like, whatever the top 10 teams in the league were, they played them all. So I can kind of get it. You never know what you're going to draw in the league, and a couple things go bad early. You got to build in enough wins to get. I mean, we've seen it a couple times. We've seen it like with Florida last year. They just had to end up one game above 500 to get in the NCAA tournament, which they did, and then of course made a run, one of the last four standing. But anyway,
you mentioned the team, and Graham, I'm curious what you think. I think that could be an interesting midweek game. UCF's not bad. And Florida is everybody's Super Bowl in that state. And all the SEC schools are. But, I mean, in that game, where is that game? Is it at UCF
in Orlando?
Or someplace special?
Disney World.
Orlando. Oh, it's at Disney. No kidding.
No, I was being facetious.
Well, I mean, it could be in one of the spring training ballparks for all seriousness, but but anyway, it is in Orlando.
Well, I know that if Florida's better, of course, but if they do not show up, UCF's going to fire every gun. That's a pelt worth keeping right there.
Mm-hmm. UCF is coming
off
on
UCF's campus, by the way. Sorry, carry on.
No, sorry. UCF is coming off a series win against South Florida. That's a big rival of theirs, so they're feeling themselves heading into this game. So keep an eye on it. That could cause some wariness if you're a Florida fan.
Graham, what we got next?
Let's look around the league. I know Ole Miss had their game canceled today. The weather's supposed to be awful in Mississippi. I don't know what it's like in Tennessee and South Carolina where you guys are. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up the schedule here.
By the way, that affect Mississippi State?
Missouri is also postponed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Against SEMO.
Yeah, that's all headed our way here in Nashville for the foreseeable future, but not here yet.
A&M, Texas San Antonio, Auburn, Old Dominion, Arkansas, Portland. All that's this weekend, though. By the way, the SEC website is brutal trying to pull up schedules and everything. Like it's all over the map. It's so hard to find anything.
Oh, I got one.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Dallas Baptist. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that's
actually.
A big one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say, I mean, we saw them play LSU last week, Dallas Baptist in a midweek. So the Patriots are obviously familiar with an SEC opponent. I think if they can get to Oklahoma's pitching, whoever they throw out there in the midweek, it could get a little interesting. But yeah, I mean, this is a tough test this is a good test for Oklahoma. I don't know if I'd say tough. I think Oklahoma can handle it. But it's a good test for them in a midweek because, I think they had that Round Rock schedule, did really well there. And outside of that, it's kind of been just, a lot of meh up to this point. This is the first non-Round Rock game where it's like, hey, we got a good team to play. So this midweek is one that matters, I'd say, to Skip Johnson and this team.
Yeah, first true road game too. So I mean, they're going on the road. Dallas Baptist, it's a really good program. Only D1 program on campus. How about that? Everything else is Division II.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
They're Conference USA and baseball only, and then D2 and everything else. Not a lot of people can say that.
No.
I think that's going to be a potential future of sports, though. because you're going to have teams specialize, because a lot of schools are not going to be able to pony up to the bar and the have and have-nots of the elite pay of college football. So, I mean, what are you going to focus on? What are you going to be great in? And, I mean, and if you're going to do it under – I'll be curious if that's is valid under Title IX. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you have to – I know they do it out of – Title IX legislation is done out of money spent, but I'd be curious if somebody offered, hey, why do they get to compete at the highest level and every other sport's at the lowest level?
Yeah, that's the magic word. Anytime anybody mentions Title IX, I just feel like the next thing is, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, it's just nobody has an answer to anything.
In the South, pretty much anytime anybody mentions Title IX, a men's cross-country program or a wrestling program gets canceled. So, I mean, and I'm a girl dad, so my daughter's an athlete. But Title IX has morphed into a place that it was about opportunities for everyone, to where now it damages more male athletes than it helps female athletes. And I will stop there because we're not going to get political.
No, you're not wrong. Back to Oklahoma for a minute. Landon Victorian was the starter, really more of an opener. Last midweek game, that was a 5-4 win over Texas Southern. They went staff day through 7 guys. I mean, that's really what you see most places in the SEC, unless somebody's got a stud like Arkansas's got, Beetle Shies. I know I got that wrong, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, unless that's your situation where you got a guy to be pitching on the weekends for anybody else, usually see staff days. So I presume that's where they're going to go. Graham, I asked you a minute ago, has Mississippi State been canceled? Because if Ole Miss is canceled, I've got to wonder about that one too.
Difference is
that's way down in
State and Southern are playing in Pearl. So I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Central Mississippi, but the Ole Miss game got canceled because North Mississippi is going to get nailed today by rain.
Okay. Let's see. What else did we circle? UTSA and A&M, an interesting one. A&M just needs to start racking up some wins again. Finally snapped a losing streak on Sunday by beating up on Rice, which it feels like everybody's doing these days. I think A&M had lost, 4 straight coming into that one. The bats have not been what we thought the bats would be.
Yeah. That was the longest losing streak for A&M since 2021.
Well, that's a great stat.
Wow.
Well, UTSA's 11-3, guys. I mean, and that's a team that gets in a regional a lot of times. I don't know how good that team is this year, but my goodness, they've won 10 straight. Is that right? Yeah, that is right. So that's just what the Aggies need, a home game against a team on a 10-game winning streak.
They
True or false? Roadrunners is a boss nickname.
I like it.
I do too.
Very
sound effects with that, Jay. I mean, you could do some stuff there, especially on stolen bases.
Yes. They've been running all over teams. They played Youngstown State this weekend. The final 3 games in that 4-game sweep, they scored 13, 16, and then 13 again in those games. So they've been scoring runs. So A&M's pitching, whoever they throw out there better bring it. A&M in general better bring it at this point with the way they've been playing. So keep an eye on that one as well. That'd be a good win at this point for this Aggie team. I mean, that this one matters to them a ton.
All right, gentlemen, we've got about 10 minutes before Jay and I've got to hop off and do a football stream here. We can unpack another midweek game, another storyline. We can look ahead to the weekend. I'll let you guys choose. Alfred, this time I'll let you throw something out there that you've got.
Yeah, something I don't know if this is like top of the barrel when it comes to headlines for midweeks this week, but to me, Chris, I'll go to your neck of the woods. Vanderbilt obviously ended their weekend kind of poorly. You know, the offense wasn't there. They couldn't draw walks. They just struggled to score runs in general. They do play Evansville today. Evansville is a team. Yes, they did give Missouri a run for their money, but you know, I think we've seen at this point that, with all due respect to Missouri, they're a gap behind, you know, the rest of the league when it comes to how they play. That being said, this would be a good way for Vanderbilt to get a bounce back and actually get some good offense going. That's something I'm keeping my eye on, at least tonight.
I'll give you another storyline with that quickly. I don't know what their pitching plan is today, but could be a situation where if somebody pitches well in the midweek, Chris McIlvain gets one more weekend, or excuse me, Ethan McIlvain. Chris was his brother. And maybe they make some kind of a change with SEC play starting at Auburn. That would be one thing to watch there outside of the outcome. And you're right, they do need to win to snap a 2-game skid.
I would say
Graham.
that.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I would say that, and the other thing too. This is, I don't know if this is something I've seen around the country, including the SEC. These midweeks seem more intriguing to me than the weekend series we have coming up, at least matchup wise. I just feel like we have better matchups in these midweeks the next 2 days than we do the weekend for most of them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm looking for. Main 2 things. I feel like a lot of eyeballs are going to be on A&M. What do they look like? They got 2 midweek games, and then they got New Mexico State at home this weekend. So if they don't handle that and, I guess pass with flying colors, like just think of all the pressure and just how much noise is going to be generating out of College Station for the unanimous preseason #1 team in the country. And then the other one is Arkansas. Arkansas pitching wise, they're beat up, and Gavin Gackle struggled this past weekend. So they get Portland this weekend. If you guys remember, Portland, they had a pitcher toss a perfect game last week. So be curious to see what Arkansas looks like on the mound. We know it's a strength of theirs, but they're just so beat up, and it just hasn't gone the way that we thought it would the past couple of weeks on the mound there. So those are the 2 things that I'm keeping an eye on.
By the way, quick note from Mark McCullough. Thanks, Mark. The USM game is postponed until 4 Thursday. The game is in Starkville. That's what Warren Nolan's got it at too, is Starkville. So anyway,
Gotcha.
So now add that one to the list of games we want to see today.
My final shot is big picture. I'm ready for the SEC to embrace the platform. You've got your own network. Play some of these games at noon on a Tuesday. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money in the coverage, but don't start shuttling all this stuff to SEC Network Plus when I'm watching Auburn beat Kentucky for the 3rd time on a replay through the course of a week. It's lazy and it's tired. And you know what? There's a big enough audience for SEC baseball at this juncture that you would be rewarded for it. I get pushing people to the plus options. I understand the streaming concept, even with my Blockbuster Video riff earlier. But right now, it just feels like you're just not working hard. And that's all I got to say about that.
I'm going to throw another one out at you, and this is always – do we need Paul Feinbaum talking football, when SEC baseball is being played 12 months a year? I mean, stick that on the plus for a little bit. And nothing against Paul. He's made a nice living. Respect a lot of what he's done, but good grief.
Well, I mean, what is Brenda from
going
to complain about?
Yeah.
She's not going to be able to tell you who's playing shortstop in Oxford. Brenda from Mulgo is going to say Jackson Dart was overrated.
That's right. Well,
don't worry, guys. When the national champion is crowned, Paul will talk to the coach for 5 minutes once that happens. So we'll get that.
Go.
Yeah,
we'll get that. A couple more quick things, and let's get a couple quick hitters on the way out maybe for the weekend. 2 more games. And there's a lot of these rivalry games. Like you got Eastern Kentucky and Kentucky and State. I think Alabama State, Jacksonville State will be interesting. Auburn going to UAB. Both those road games. So back to the concept of Super Bowls, those are some to watch. Let's go to the weekend quickly, Graham. Give me 3 or 4 series you're keeping an eye on this weekend. We will get into these a little bit later, but just a little Tuesday sneak preview for what's coming your way Friday.
Yeah, the 2 that I touched on earlier are just kind of the ones that fascinate me the most. The Texas A&M, New Mexico State, just because of everything going on in Aggie land right now. And then Arkansas, just they're playing a decent Portland team that has had a lot of success. Again, the first perfect game in college baseball this season for Portland. Arkansas, what do they look like on the mound? And do the Aloy brothers continue to tear the cover off the baseball? And Iredale's transition to JUCO in New Mexico to life in the SEC. So those are the ones that intrigue me the most this upcoming weekend.
For me, one series that intrigues me a lot now that I look at it, Texas and Santa Clara. The reason for that, Santa Clara, although not anyone special this year, they did beat Cal in a 4-game series. Cal is a bigger team than Santa Clara, as we can infer. 2 of those wins came on the road. They did a weird little 2 games on the road and then 2 games at home at Santa Clara. They're heading to Austin. I think Texas can easily win this series, but with that being said, Santa Clara is not going to go in there afraid, I don't think at all, looking at what they did this past weekend. So keep an eye out on that one, Santa Clara and Texas.
I guess for me, it's Harvard at Florida because of a lot of people don't know this rule, but when the Ivy League comes south, they incorporate a mid-inning Jeopardy contest, and so I go edge Harvard.
Well, that's not the only Ivy League team heading this way this weekend. Who's the other one?
Columbia.
The Cole Hage alma mater. They've got Georgia at Foley Field. Yeah, those Ivy League teams are not always pushovers, so always keep an eye on those. Old Dominion and Auburn will be probably one of the headline series. Wofford usually pretty good. They go to Lexington to face Kentucky. A couple of other ones of interest. I think you mentioned the A&M New Mexico State. New Mexico State, historically an offense-heavy program, although I think that has something to do with I think they play in a bandbox with altitude, so that may account for the offense more than it does the hitters, although Nick Gonzalez with the Pirates, one of their up-and-coming prospects who's graduating into regular player type of guy. He went there, so they do produce some talent. And Sam Houston, a team you see as a 4 in regionals a lot of times, they're going to play Oklahoma. And Vandy Xavier. Vandy's kind of, I wouldn't say game the RPI early, but that's going to be one. Keep an eye on that. Vanderbilt's a borderline NCAA tournament team, which I think it could be with the schedule. Vanderbilt's going to have, if it takes care of business this weekend, one of the top non-conference RPIs and probably one of the top non-conference RPI strength of schedules too. So keep an eye. Xavier's a team that can sneak up and take a series from somebody and is in a regional a lot of times too. So that's one I've got my eye on. Gentlemen, parting thoughts before Jay and I go to take care of some football here in a moment.
Jay, thank you for talking about the SEC Network Plus thing. I thought that was really good and needed to be said by somebody. My final thought is, SEC Network, us 4, let us do a random midweek game that you want no one to watch. We will gladly do it.
Right.
Sign us all up. There we go.
Shout out to Sam. He did bring up something really important that I totally forgot about. AJ Russell. Could see him in the midweek as they stretch him out, get him ready. That might be one of the most important storylines of today. We kind of overlooked that one. I just think about him being a guy in the rotation, but he's not there yet. So in any case, thank you all for watching. We're going to start doing these going forward, I think, at about 11:15 Eastern, 10:15 Central every day. We'll do them Monday to Thursday. We're still trying to figure out the weekend yet. We may do some stuff on Friday nights. Maybe not this one because the games aren't as big, but I think certainly we will do some kind of Friday night reaction once conference series start. I don't know if that'll be right away because I will be at the SEC tournament for basketball when that happens next week, although you guys can do it without me. So there's that. Mm-hmm. But point is we're gonna get something together soon on the weekend content, figure that out, and in the meantime in the midweeks we're here Monday to Friday, I think 11:15 or 10:15 Central to around 11, maybe 11:15 depending on the comments and all that stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. God bless you. Stay right here, or at least check out the channel. It won't be this same link, but we're going to start a live stream for football in just a minute. Jay will be on it. I think I'm going to join too. We'll talk about key games for about half the SEC teams. So hope you guys enjoy that. For Graham Doty, for Alfred Esmond, for Jay Greason, I'm Chris Lee at Southeastern 16. God bless you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again in a couple of minutes with football content.